Thanks for joining us today on the Big Blue Podcast. I'm Leigh Goodson, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Greg Stone. How are you, Greg?
I'm well. How are you?
Wonderful. We are here at our Owasso Community Campus today during our Professional Development Day and Convocation. It's been a great day already. Lots of inspiration and togetherness and,
awards.
Just kind of sharpen the saw, right? Yeah, just really try to kind of be present in the moment. Our guest today is Kirk Brewer, Associate Professor of Communication and Faculty Association President.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you really enthusiastic or?
I'm very enthusiastic,
Okay,
yes.
good,
I'm excited.
yeah.
I'm excited about a new year, and we had a good meeting today. And
Good.
so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's a hard job.
That's what I've been told many
that's
times.
what I've been told too by every one of you all that has that I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with. Starting with Terry McDevitt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Terry is actually why I got interested in FA in the first place. So.
Yeah. Well, he's a great person and was great to work with. But really, it's been a delight the whole time. But for new faculty members or new employees to the college who may be listening, what are the main goals of Faculty Association? So as you come into this, you've heard it's a lot of work and you're excited to represent your peers. So what are your goals and what kind of work does FA involve itself in?
Okay, actually, that's what I spent a lot of time talking about in our meeting today.
Okay, so it's kind of a recap a little.
What we're here for, right? What is the Faculty Association all about? I think if I were going to boil it down, I'd say primarily our goal is helping the voice of faculty be heard with kind of going forward with administration, making sure concerns of faculty are brought forward, and being able to relay those back to faculty as well. So I think that's a big thing. We also, one of the most important thing that Faculty Association does, we have a scholarship fund, and we award scholarships to students. We have 2 new students this fall to whom we've awarded scholarships, and we had some last year as well.
To TCC students.
To TCC students,
Oh,
yes.
Wonderful. And are those through the foundation?
They are. The foundation is a matching grant, and we put money forward, and the foundation does, and then we help some students go to college. And that's really what we're about, right? That's what the faculty are about, is education and educating as many students as possible. So I feel like that's really good work. And then, just supporting everything that the faculty does, be it professional development. We have the Stay Conference that we sponsor each year. We have welcome picnic that we're coming for new faculty. Just everything to try to help faculty be the best they can be. That's what we're about.
Well, and I think what I really appreciate, my relationship with Faculty Association is essentially working with the officers directly, the presidents of each campus directly, and you all do such a great job of bringing faculty concerns forward and framing them in a way that really makes sense. So I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for that, because I think that's what I meant. It's really hard work because a lot of people come to you with concerns, and you have to frame them in a way that they make sense to everybody that you have to send the message to.
Right.
So yes, thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and as a former FA president, it is hard work, but you're well suited for it. So you're going to have a great year, I know. And partly out of my own sense of curiosity, because I, lived in that role for so long. How's the FA changed in recent years, just in terms of its structure? Because now that we have a new organizational structure within the college, it's no longer a certain number of votes in the FA board meetings based on your division, based on your campus. What's the new structure like, and how have you all taken on that work?
We don't change. No, I'm just kidding. We refuse, absolutely, no. One of the things that we really looked at with reorg, for example, was are we having good representation of all faculty? That was one of the key things. We didn't want to change just for change's sake. We wanted to make sure that if we're going to change our organizational structure, and we have, then we wanted to make sure it was because there was a reason. In fact, that was one of my big concerns. I didn't want to, because when we looked at it, if we were going to change, we were going to have to look at our Constitution. There were some major things that had to happen. So we did, and we saw that really we were very hit and miss. We had several departments in our previous organization. No one was being represented whatsoever. So what we've done is we have, instead of by campuses, we have aligned specifically by department. So, and we're represented proportionally. So, however many faculty are in that department, like if at 10 faculty, up to 10, you get one representative. Over 10, you get two, and then if you're over 20, you get three, and so on and so forth.
And then is that also specific by campus?
So that is not
Is it a
specific.
both
That's
and?
specific. It's a both
Okay.
and. So that is not specific by campus. But those of us who come from those smaller campuses, I'm one. I'm come from West Campus, and
Yes.
we always have concerns that we're going to be forgotten. So
Be your best at West.
yes, that's right, and or anywhere, but of course,
Yeah, no,
particularly
I mean,
at West.
I'm just reciting.
No, I know. Yes,
Yeah.
that's where. Actually, we say you're the best at West, because
Yeah,
we are.
okay,
But anyway,
okay.
no. So what we did was, in addition to that proportional representation, we also then have an at-large rep for each campus as well.
I
So
see.
that, and then each campus has a president. So by campus, you're going to have two at-large representatives,
I
an
see.
at-large and a president, and then departmentally. And we feel like that helps address any concerns that the smaller campuses might have, but the larger campuses have different concerns as well. So that's really helped, I think. We have 40 representatives now, so that's an increase, yeah.
That's a good portion. That's over 10% of the faculty
It is.
are
That's 'cause
representing you in
Exactly,
FA. That's
really
well,
good.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, I just now did the math.
Right.
Yeah. So, wonderful. Well, what are the priorities for FA for over the next year? How will you go about establishing your priorities and then working on those priorities? What do they look like?
Well, very good. One of our primary priorities is as much shared governance as possible. The sooner that we're brought in to help in the decision-making process, the better it will be for all involved, is one of our thoughts. That's a priority just from talking with our faculty, with our peers, from meetings that we've had with administration, our monthly meetings with you,
Right.
and with Dr. Hess, the Provost, that it's mutually beneficial if we are part of that process as much as possible.
And do you feel like the new council structure will help get us there? Are you enthusiastic about that, or cautiously optimistic, or?
No, I do think it's good. I think I was an individual member on the Academic Affairs Council, and then while I was on Faculty Association, and so it was one of those really great opportunities to be able to, often coming straight from a meeting into the Faculty Association, say, oh, well, this is what we talked about. We found how valuable that was. So as a result of that, we then got a couple of FA reps that are at the Academic Affairs Council meetings as observers, really. We're not voting members now, although we do have one or two FA people who are also on Academic Affairs Council, but the past president and the president-elect, or past president and president-elect, are always there at the meetings to bring back reports. So it's really helpful, just keeping up those open lines of communication.
Well, and it's relationships also.
Exactly, knowing
you
the
know.
people, right?
Knowing,
I mean, that's one of the key things.
Because
is
then you have a number to call when
Right.
you want to just talk about it, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's really helpful.
I'm Greg Stone here with President Goodson and Kirk Brewer, who's our Faculty Association president, and you're listening to the Big Blue podcast. We're talking about FA today. When did you first become involved in FA? I mean, just over the years, I know you've been on all sorts of committees and task forces and had some history with the FA, but how did you and what led you to take on this role? You mentioned Terry McDevitt,
actually.
now retired, happily retired colleague of ours.
He is happily
ecstatic.
retired.
I mean,
Yes.
goodness, boy. Well, so Terry was our West Campus president, and I am friends with Terry. Actually, Terry was one of the first people that I met when I came to TCC 15 years ago. Because he knew my wife when they were children. They went to elementary school together, and so anyway, we talked, and I started talking to him about what FA was. It was about 5 years ago, really, when I first got interested in it, and we had been on some committees together, and he said, you know, you'd be really good on FA Council and being part of it, and so I asked him more about it, and so about 4 years ago is when I got involved and started going to the meetings, and then got elected as a rep, and So that's really what it was. And because I thought it was a great opportunity to help. And I'm a helper. Sometimes to my own detriment, but, you know.
Do you say yes?
I do a lot, unfortunately.
Well, as most educators are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a boss one time, and he wanted me to do something, and I was like, I don't know if, and he said, the power of yes. He started talking to me about the power of yes. And I was like, oh, wow. And I haven't ever really given it up.
There's a power of no, too.
Yeah,
I learned.
I know.
I mean, I have had
true.
so many
Exactly.
different people live in my house because I said yes so many times.
The power of
you know,
yes, yes.
So I'm
The
like,
power of yes has crowded
anyway,
you out.
it is.
Yeah. Well, you began teaching full-time at TCC in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest change you've noticed in our students' needs? And what do you see them facing now that students haven't faced the same way before?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I can compare it to TCC, and I can also, I've been doing this for 27 years, so there's a lot of change in my students from the beginning. A lot of times the concerns are the same, right? I mean, they're trying to balance work, and they're trying to balance school, and many of them family and so forth. But I think one of the things that I hear my peers talk about a lot and that I have seen is just the role of technology and the problems with attending, not just physically attending, that's a problem too sometimes, but actually being there and being in the moment, as you mentioned.
Present.
Being present in the moment. And I think that's so important. In fact, I was just reading today an email talking about how the power of the present, and being in the present, and that this moment right here, within it lies all of the opportunities that you have in your life, because it's right here. And I think
And
my
we're letting
students-
it pass by.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of my students don't see that. And that's actually one of the things I try to really emphasize in my classes. Be here. If you can't be here for some reason, then I get it. You're an adult person. You have to. But if you're here, be here. We want you here. Be here in the moment with us, because that's where the happening happens, right? That's where the real things happen. I think they have more of a struggle with that now than my students, even 15 years ago when I started.
Absolutely.
So,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, Kirk, we just have a couple minutes left, and we always ask guests the same question at the end, which is, if you could go back in time and give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
Grow a beard as soon as possible. No, I grew mine late in life, but actually, probably the best advice I would give my 18-year-old self is don't be afraid. I look back at some of the things. I remember very well an opportunity that I had when I was a freshman in college, and had the opportunity. I could have gone to Taiwan and taught English. I was an English major, and I thought, oh wow, that would be so cool. And then I was just afraid to do it. I mean, there were too many unknowns, right? I mean, I had left Tulsa, Oklahoma, to go to California where I didn't know anybody. So I mean, I wasn't afraid of taking some risks, but that was just too much. And I think if there's anything I've learned over the years, it's, take the risk.
I could have done it.
Take the risk,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
What do you have to lose, right?
Yeah, what do you got to lose? And even, what's the worst that could happen, right? So just take the risk, and because I've found when I take the risks, the rewards are worth it. And so that's where the good stuff is.
Yeah, that's good advice. Well, you've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast. We want to thank our guest, Kirk Brewer. Thank you, Professor Brewer, for spending time with us today. And we want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week in the week at TCC and on the Creativity channel at YouTube. Thanks, Dr. Stone.
Thank you.
Kirk
Yeah, thank you
Brewer.
all. Thanks, Kirk.
Okay.
Thanks.